The people who love you the most might be the reason you are broke right now. I'm not talking about your enemies. I'm not talking about bad friends. I'm talking about your own parents, the people who sacrificed everything for you, the people who stayed up at night worrying about your future, the same people whose money advice is quietly keeping you stuck. Now, before you close this video and go and report me to those same parents, hear me out. That's not what I mean actually. But then, because this is not about disrespecting your parents, this is about understanding something very important. There is a difference between someone who loves you and someone who has the right map for where you're trying to go. Let me explain. If you're trying to travel from Lagos to Abuja and someone hands you a map, a very detailed, well-drawn, beautiful map, but it is a map of London, that map will not help you. It doesn't matter how much that person loves you. It does not matter how expensive that map is. If it is the wrong map, it will take you to the wrong place. That is what is happening to a lot of us. We are holding maps that don't match the terrain we are working on. The world your parents grew up in no longer exists. Your parents grew up in a different economy, a different world, a different financial reality. In their time, you could get a government job and stay there for 35 years and retire with a pension. In their time, loyalty to a company meant the company was loyal back. In their time, saving money in a bank was actually a smart move because inflation was not eating everything alive. In their time, the rules of money were different. So they learned those rules, they mastered those rules, they survived and sometimes thrived by those rules. And because they love you, they handed those rules to you. Are you not seeing what I'm saying? But here is the problem. The economy changed, the rules changed, the game changed. But the advice did not change. You are playing a 2026 money game with a 1985 strategy and wondering why you keep losing. It is like your father teaching you how to send a letter through the mailbox when everyone around you is on WhatsApp and email. The skill is real, the intention is genuine, but the application is outdated. Let's talk about this specific advice. The first one I want to talk to you is get a good job with a good salary. Now, I want to be fair. There is nothing wrong with having a good job. A job can be a beautiful thing. A job can be your launch pad. But when your parents say get a job, what they really mean is be safe, be secure, don't take a risk. And that mindset, that play itself mindset is exactly what kills financial growth in the economy. Because in this economy, the riskiest thing you can do is depend on one stream of income. Yes, I said it. In this economy, putting all your financial eggs in one employer's basket is the actual gamble. Companies are downsizing, the AI is replacing roles. The most dangerous financial position you can be in right now is total dependency on the salary. This does not mean doing multiple streams of income. I'll still balance up that point. That's not what I mean. But your parents will never tell you that because in their world, the salary was the safety net. In your world, the salary alone is the trap. The second one they always tell you is save, save, and save. Growing up, how many of us had this? You keep something for tomorrow, don't spend everything, put money in the bank, and again, the intention is right. The discipline is right, but the strategy is incomplete because nobody told us that while we are saving, inflation is spending the money. Nobody told us that money sitting in a savings account is actually losing value every single year. Nobody taught us the difference between saving and growing money. There's a man in the Bible, his master gave him 1 talent. You know what he did? He went and buried it. He saved it. He protected it. He kept it safe. When the master came back, he was not celebrated. He was condemned. Because safety and growth are not the same thing, your parents taught you to bury the talents. This economy is demanding that you multiply it. The third one I want to tell you is that debt is evil. But is that really true? They tell you never borrow money. This one right here, this one has kept so many people broke for generations because there are two kinds of debt and nobody explained the difference to us. There is bad debt, that is borrowing money to buy things that lose value, borrowing to buy a car that you don't even need, borrowing to fund a lifestyle you cannot afford. That kind of debt will bury you and your parents will arrive to warn you about it. But there is a good debt as well, borrowing money to buy an asset that generates income, borrowing to start a business with a proven model, borrowing to invest in something that will return more than it costs. The wealthiest people in the world are using other people's money to build their empires. Don't you see that? Your parents never made that distinction. To them, all debt is shame. All debt is danger. So you grew up afraid of a tool that the world uses every single day. Let me tell you this story. David walked onto that battlefield without the king's armor. Everyone thought he was being foolish. Everyone thought he was underprepared, but he understood something they didn't. The armor that protects someone else can slow you down. The tools that build someone else's wealth might not be your own tools, but refusing to learn new tools because your parents feared them, that is what will cost you. Now, I want to shift this conversation because I don't want you to live here with bitterness towards your parents. That is not the lesson. The real inheritance your parents gave you was not the money advice. It was values. It was work ethic. It was resilience. It was the ability to delay gratification. These are the world's building foundations that matter enormously. The problem is not your parents. The problem is that we took their survival strategies and mistook them for wealth strategies. Your parents were teaching you how to survive the economy they knew. You have to learn how to thrive in an economy you are actually in. Let me tell you about Joseph's father, who was Jacob, the one we know in the Bible. He was a herdsman, of course, not the herdsman you know. That was how Jacob built his wealth. Animals, land, livestock. If Joseph had followed his father's exact blueprint and gone back to herding sheep in Egypt, he would have stayed in a slavery mentality, even though he was technically free. Instead, Joseph looked at the environment he was in, understood what that environment needed, and offered a solution that matched who he already was. He didn't copy his father. He honored his father's value while building his own path. And this is what you have to do. So what is the new advice here I'm talking about? Stop asking, how do I get a good job? And start asking, how do I build a valuable skill that the market will always pay for? Stop asking, how do I save more? And start asking, how do I make my money work while I sleep? Stop asking, how do I avoid all risk? And start asking, how do I understand risk well enough to take the right ones? Of course, stop copying the people ahead of you who are playing an old game and start studying the people who are winning in the current economy. Because here is the truth that nobody is saying loudly enough. Your parents' generation measured worth by stability. Your generation has to measure worth by mobility, the ability to move, to adapt, to build things that are not tied to one employer, one location, and one economy. The goal is not to have a secured job. The goal is to have a secured life. And in this season, these two things are no longer the same. One more thing I want to tell you is this. I want to speak to someone specifically right now. Yes, you have been feeling guilty because you want to do something different with your life and your money, but every time you try to think differently, your parents' voices come into your head. Be careful, this is risky. What if it doesn't work? Why can't you just be normal? And that voice has been slowing you down. I want you to understand something. Honoring your parents does not mean copying their blueprints. You can deeply respect someone and still chart a different course. Yes. In fact, the greatest gift you can give your parents is not to repeat their financial struggles at a higher level. The greatest gift is to break that cycle entirely. That is not betrayal. That is breakthrough. There is worth in you. There is a path that works specifically for you, but you would never find it if you keep walking on a road that was built for someone else's destination. Your parents gave you love. They gave you values. They gave you a starting point. Now, it is your job to build the map for where you are actually going. If you want help figuring out what your own money path looks like, what your financial strength zone is, I have left a link in the description. Go check it. Or you can also go to favouremeli.com/money quiz. And if this video made you think differently today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not to disrespect their parents, but to set them free. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.